everybody, master trainer and wellness enthusiast Kiana Leah, back with you guys again after a week off. I had a harrowing battle with poison oak. I'm still showing some residual effects from it, but thank goodness I'm doing much better and feeling much better. But there was not a lot of moving and even less talking going on last week, I can tell you that. And while I learned a lot about a lot of things that I will probably share with you guys in coming weeks, this week, since we were off, I thought it would be good to go back to basics. We did that in our workout class on Monday night. We just talked about some great basics for our walking techniques from T-Tapp Method as well as postural restoration. And in thinking about T-Tapp Method, one of the major basics that made such an impact for me all those years ago when I started was body typing. And I haven't talked about body typing in these months, so I thought that would be a great topic and possibly of interest to many people to look at how your bone length ratios can make a difference in where you struggle to lose inches and possibly are more prone to injuries and issues, whether male or female. So let's take a look at some body typing, and I'm going to use myself as a model, which means I'm going to go ahead and back up so you guys can see me all the way from head to toe for our Wellness Wednesday for a change. And I'm going to talk about what my body proportions are and how they relate to different types of body proportions along the way. Within the T-Tapp method, we really have three main body types. We have a long torso, short leg, a short torso, long leg, and a combination body in between. So we're going to talk about what all of those things mean and how they translate for each of us just a bit to know where our trouble spots are going to be for both injury and weight loss. Now, there's a spectrum of these from a long torso, short leg to a short torso, long leg. There's a combo body in between, but you can be tending towards one or tending towards the other, or a weird juxtaposition of each of them, which is actually what I am. It's part of why I know body typing as well as I do, because for years I had no idea what I was. I listened to the lectures from Teresa Tapp over and over again, and none of them quite fit. So that was part of how I finally had to go and really sit at her feet and understand this. And I've been sharing that great information with students and others alike for many years since then. Now, first thing that we look at is torso. So the first thing I said was long torso, short torso. Long torso means from the bottom of your rib cage. So not where you see the ribs come together here, but if you trace that down to the bottom of the rib cage here, from the bottom of the rib cage to the top of the iliac crest, this distance right here. So again, you've got that bony protrusion in the front, and then the crest comes up in an angle, a little dome across the side. We're looking for this distance here at the top of that little dome on your side, right underneath that rib cage. This distance is what we're looking for when we say rib to hip, not rib way up here to hip way down there, but it's at the bottom of the rib cage and the top of the dome of the iliac crest, rib to hip. Long torsos have 4 inches or more for women, and for men 5 or 6 or more, because men tend to be a little bit larger than women, but that also can be a bit dependent on your height. So bottom of the rib cage, top of the hips, if you've got 4, 5, 6 or more inches, regardless, male or female or anything in between, that is considered a long torso. Generally, what that means is you have a much easier time maintaining a small waist. Your waist naturally is smaller than other people who may have the same height as you. And when I have a class situation, a lot of times I'll have another model standing next to me to show a little bit more the difference of whether or not the waist cinches in more easily or it does not. But if you know you're the same height as one of your friends and either you have the smaller waist or they have the smaller waist, whichever one of you at the same height and approximate body build, body composition as far as amount of fat, amount of muscle, etc., etc. Those two things being equal and the heights are equal, one person has a smaller waist than the other, that's the longer torso. And if you never understand when we talk about that lower belly pooch or spread through the middle, what we're talking about, you're probably a long torso as well. That's a long torso. There's a lot of space for a lot of the internal organs, your stomach, your intestines, colon, other things like that, to all lay between these two things. Obviously, our liver and gallbladder, stomach, lungs, and heart are all tucked up underneath the rib cage itself. So we've got all our guts that have to be between the ribs and the hip. If you've got more space, those get to spread out. They get to lay back against your spine, which allows the muscles to cinch in as well because there's more space. Short torso, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, has about 2 inches or even fewer. So if you're going, oh goodness, I can barely get my hands together. There's no space whatsoever. And if you look here on me, you can see that that's actually the case. There's not a lot of space. That's about 2 inches from the bottom of my rib cage to my hips. That's going to push that waist out because those same exact organs that had 4, 5, or 6 inches on a long torso have 2 or fewer on you if you're a short torso. So if your belly is always a target area of concern, no matter how skinny you were, no matter how much you dieted, no matter how many eating disorders you had, yours truly, that's going to be part of why you struggle with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's much better, healthier, and easier to understand that and stop trying to go after an impossible body image that's just not right for you. It doesn't mean that you're not amazing and your body's not perfect for exactly who and what you are. And again, men or women doesn't matter. For men, frequently below 3 inches could be considered a short torso instead of 2 inches for those taller gentlemen in our communities. But either way, now in between the 2 inches and the 4 inches, that's what's known as a combo body. You might get some belly pooch, you might not. You might have been okay when you were super young and super fit, and after a couple kids, not so much, no matter how hard you try. That is a combo waist. And that's really what we look for when we're starting to make these comparisons. And of course, there's that spectrum in between. So that's ratio number 1. Ratio number 2. These are your leg ratios. So when I say combo long torso short leg or short torso long leg, what I'm talking about is not just the length of your inseam. So if you think about the length of the inseam from the inside of the thigh all the way down to that ankle bone, that's not exactly what we're talking about. While that does come into play, because frequently with a long torso, you will see a shorter inseam length for the same height. Again, if you and your buddy are 5'10" and you're standing next to each other and you notice their belt line is way higher than yours, they have long legs, you may not. But that's not 100% what we're talking about. And it's part of the reason I have shorts on tonight, because I have a long inseam length. If you measure from here down, there was a lot of distance being covered because, like I said, I only have about 2 inches on my waist. A majority of my height is not coming from my waist. It's coming from my legs. However, within T-Tapp, what we talk about for legs is not just inseam length. It's really not about that for us. It's the ratio of the length of your calf to your thigh. So the length of your tibia to your fibia. And it's calf over thigh. So if the distance, and here's how we measure these, just so you know. So if I swing my knee, there's the fold, there's the hinge point. I'm looking for that hinge point. That's where I'm going for. I'm measuring right from there, from that center, to my ankle bone. This length right here, compared to from that same hinge point of the knee up to the hinge point of the hip. So we're not going all the way back to the top of the iliac crest like we measured the waist. We're going at that hinge point again. So again, if I swing my leg and I feel where it folds, that's my hinge point. It's actually down here. lower, where the bend happens. So notice I can lift and bend my leg and my hand doesn't move. If I go lower, see how now my hand moved. If I'm higher, I can't feel it. So I should be able to feel, when I lift my leg, I should feel that movement right underneath my hand. That's my hinge point. From this hinge point to this hinge point versus from this hinge point to the ankle bone. You remember, it's ankle bone to knee first, top, over, ankle bone to hip. If this is shorter than that, that is considered a short leg. So it's not so much the inseam length itself, it's the ratio of your calf length to your thigh length, basically, to say it quickly and easily. So if you look at me, from here to here and to here to here, my calf is much shorter than my thigh. It's actually close to 3 inches shorter. The majority of my height is right here in my thighs. That's where I get my height from. And if I had somebody I could stand next to who was many inches shorter than me, almost inevitably our knees line up really well because all of my height is here and my hip can hit their rib cage pretty easily when they're several inches shorter than I am because of that length ratio. Now, what does that mean? It means that I tend to have, again, you have thicker thigh muscles at the top because you need more stabilization of that large, long, very heavy bone in the center of your thighs. Your hips are broader to help accommodate for that. You also have more glute muscles rounding and stabilizing that as well. So those of us with that really big bubble butt and those really wide hips usually have a short leg. Most of the time, this is in combination with a long torso. So these are the women that have the little teeny itty bitty waist and then all kinds of hip and butt underneath of that to give them a lovely hourglass type figure. Long legs on the other side are nice even leg ratio where the knee is smack in the middle. In some very rare and very lucky cases, it's actually a little higher, which means the calf is much longer than the thigh. These thighs maintain much more leanness going up. They can be much more balanced. The hips are narrower and there's not a lot of rounding in the glutes. There's a flat butt. So for those of you who have done lunges and lunges and lunges and lunges and lunges and squats and lunges and squats and squats and squats for days and you still don't get a round booty, that's why. Because your leg bone ratios are not super conducive to that. It's not necessary for your body to effectively and efficiently move around in the way that is safe and powerful for those bone ratios. That doesn't mean that using T-Tapp method and working on those glute medius and glute minimus aren't going to give you a heck of a lot better result. They absolutely will, but you're never going to have this much junk in your trunk no matter how hard you try, and that's okay. Because that's what's meant for your body and makes your body unique and perfect just the way it is. Combining those two things together, the combo bodies on average have a long leg ratio. It's usually relatively even. I am one of the rare exceptions. I am a combo because of this. I'm not quite a short torso. I'm right at the edge at that 2.5 inches from rib to hip. But my legs really knock me over. What's weird is technically I'm a short torso, short leg. It's a little bit more of a rare body type, which is why it was so hard for me to find. And there are the rare exceptions of you that have long torso and long legs. You tend to be nice and long and lean and leggy all the way through. You've got nice, soft, very gentle feminine curves for our gentlemen out there. These are a lot of times the people you see who are more your swimmers or your basketball players, people of that nature who tend to be long and lean all the way through. Those are some of the basics for our body types. Hopefully that helped you guys. Maybe someday I'll get to redo this video and be able to have some models with me to show you more. But I hope that that made sense to you. Of course, if there's questions, let me know. Put them in the comments below or direct message me. I always love seeing those things, and thank you so much for liking and sharing. It's wonderful to watch all my social media channels grow. In the meantime, I'm Kiana Leah. I want to see you move, live, and thrive. So I'll see you on the next one.